All right, it's okay now.
Okay. That's probably the end of the conversion thing where it starts to go a bit wonky.
Yeah.
That's actually my concern, really, because my conversion's about to end as well.
Oh.
Yeah. Pop in if it does. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry, I'm back.
Yeah.
I got your back.
You got my back. You're welcome to it. It's horrible. My back. Okay. So, okay, we're 2 minutes to go.
Okay.
We're recording this as well, so people can catch up with this later.
Okay.
Okay, I've got 3:20, so I'm going to start. I'm sure people will be coming in later. Okay, so we'll just start. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the next talk in our room. This talk is entitled "Inappropriate Features in Test Takers' Self-Recommendation Letters: An Analysis of Chinese Languages Compositions in the National Matriculation English Test." And oh, sorry, actually slightly changed, right? Investigating Pragmatic Competence of Chinese.
Yes, I've slightly changed the title.
Okay, so I'll stop saying that and I'll go on to what it actually says. Investigating Pragmatic Competence of Chinese high school EFL learners in Gaokao writing assessment. My name is Jonathan Cruz, and I'm hosting this along with my co-host Jessica de la Cruz, no relation, and who's in the Philippines. And this talk would last 20 minutes. During that time, please keep your microphones muted. The talk will be recorded, and so that you can view it later. And also, if you need to ask some questions, please put them in the chat box, or you can also ask Yuan Ke directly. Having said his name, let me introduce Yuan Ke. Yuan Ke is an associate professor of applied linguistics at South China Normal University in China. He's also a member of a key research center of Guangdong Province for language cognition and assessment. His research interests are in second language writing, systemic functional linguistics, and corpus linguistics. His articles appeared in Discourse Studies, Discourse and Society, and Text and Talk. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Yuan Ke Li for his talk today.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan, for very nice introduction. My name is Yuan Ke Li from South China Normal University, and also from Key Research Center of Guangdong Province for Language, Cognition and Assessment. Thank you for coming to my section. In my talk, I'm going to share our current project aiming to investigate the pragmatic competence of Chinese high school EFL learners in National Matriculation English Test, or Gaokao writing assessment. In my talk, I'm going to share the 3 parts. In the first part, I will going to provide the background, explaining why it is necessary to investigate teenage learners pragmatic competence in general and Chinese high school learners' pragmatic competence in particular in our project. And in the second part, I'm gonna briefly introduce our current project investigating the pragmatic competence of Chinese high school EFL learners in letter genres assessed in National Matriculation English Test, or Gaokao. And we focus particularly on identifying the inappropriate features and also explore their relationships to writing proficiency. And then in the final part of my talk, I'm gonna provide a work in progress case study of the inappropriate features produced by low, mid, and high scoring students writers in self-recommendation letters assessed in National Matriculation English Test. So we start by looking at the background, why it is important to investigate teenage learners in general, and in our project, we particularly focus on Chinese high school EFL learners' interlanguage pragmatic competence. Well, there are several important reasons. First of all, in today's globalized community and also the launch of One Belt, One Road policy emphasize the importance of interlanguage pragmatic competence for successful and appropriate communications, particularly when citizens of different L1 backgrounds come together and try to communicate. Secondly, there have been plenty of research looking at university students' pragmatic competence, particularly in oral communication with reference to different speech acts, particularly in speech acts involving some degree of face threatening, such as requests, apologies, and refusals. There are also other researchers who investigate university students' pragmatic competence in written genres as well. And most of these research have been done in computer-mediated communication context, particularly in emails. For example, Chang et al. 2006 is a lovely volume including a number of papers authored by Chinese scholars investigating the pragmatic competence of Chinese university students in written genres, mostly in computer-mediated communication context. However, high school students' pragmatic competence in general, and also Chinese high school students' pragmatic competence in particular, remain largely underexplored. And the importance of exploring high school students' pragmatic competence has been made evident when we look at the frontline Chinese high school EFL teachers' published articles, who emphasize that interlanguage pragmatic problems frequently appear in junior and senior high school students' compositions. And they also call for greater attention to teenage EFL learners' interlanguage pragmatic competence. Okay, another good reason for exploring Chinese high school EFL learners' pragmatic competence is that the new National Curriculum Standard for High School English courses published by Education Ministry of China in 2017 actually make it explicitly that we need to devote more attention to students' pragmatic competence. Okay, so in this official document that I just referred to, the new Chinese National Curriculum Standard for senior high school English courses published in 2017, 3 years ago, the Ministry of Education in China make it explicit that we need to develop students' pragmatic competence here, the part that I highlight here. And I also want to draw your attention to the fact that a pragmatic competence did not did not hold any place in the previous version of the National Curriculum Standard. And then in the 2017 version, which was the latest version of the curriculum standard, Education Ministry make it explicit that we need to devote greater attention to develop students' pragmatic ability. So for the first time in the national curriculum. And also in the official document, we can see the Education Ministry has also made it very clear that we need to develop pragmatic competence at 3 levels of courses in high school. Okay. Now, given the scales of research looking into high school students' pragmatic competence, and also the call by frontline high school teachers to give more attention to students' pragmatic competence, and also Chinese Education Ministry emphasized the importance of developing high school students' pragmatic competence. Given this background, currently we are working on a project that investigate Chinese EFL learners, high school EFL learners' pragmatic competence in assessed written genres in Gaokao, okay? And we have, for our project, we have 2 aims. First of all, we focus on identifying the inappropriate features, okay? We attempt to identify the inappropriate features that students produce in 3 assessed letter genres in Gaokao, okay? Including self-recommendation letters, request letters, and refusal letters produced by final year high school students, grade 12 students who were sitting for National Matriculation English Test, or Gaokao. And we also want to investigate the relationship between the types of inappropriate features produced by high school learners and their proficiency levels, okay? Now, and I also thank the Key Research Center of Guangdong Province for language condition assessment funding this project. We are a team of 4 members, including me and 3 other colleagues. Okay, now, next part, I'm gonna provide a work in progress study of the inappropriate features in the self-recommendation letters in our project. Earlier, I have mentioned that in our project, we try to identify the inappropriate features in 3 letter genres, right? Okay, so in this in the final part, I'm gonna provide a case study of our investigation of the inappropriate features that we identify in self-recommendation letter genre that students produce in Gaokao, okay? And we start by looking at the writing prompt that students were required to write for self-recommendation letters. Okay, here on the left-hand side, we can see the original writing prompt given in Chinese, okay, in the examination. So I'm gonna explain very briefly the writing context, okay. Now, the full mark for this writing section was 25 points, okay. And the writing context was, suppose you were Li Hua, you were studying in London, and you heard that the local art exhibition was gonna hold a Chinese art exhibition. And you were required to write a letter to recommend yourself for a volunteer position. Okay, so basically the writing prompt require students to write a self-recommendation letter to London local arts exhibition center, okay? And in the letter, students were required to specify the writing purpose, to write personal strengths and their personal contributions, the things that they can do for the arts exhibition, okay? And there are some additional requirements. Students were required to write about 100 words approximately, and students can add extra details in order to make the composition coherent. And students were required to write on the template given on the right-hand side. Okay, so students were instructed to write on the template given here. So the template already showed the addressing term, dear sir or madam, and also the template had specified the closing, yours sincerely, Li Hua. So students didn't have to write these two parts because these two parts have already been provided in the template. So students wrote the information in between these two parts, okay? So we analyze the things that students wrote in between these two parts and identify the inappropriate features for this writing prompt, and also try to investigate the relationship between the inappropriate features students produce and their writing proficiency. Okay. And next, before we look at the inappropriate features students produce in this writing prompt, I'm going to show you the corpus that we analyze. Okay, so we got the data from the local text administrator in Guangdong province, but we managed to get only a small writing sample for this writing prompt. We got 50 writing samples for high rated group, okay, 50 for medium rated group, and also 50 writing samples for low rated group. So by high rated groups, I mean letters score between 20 and 24 points. Okay, so we got 50 letters for this group. Basically, we got 10 letters for each point. So for each group, 10 letters for each point. So totaling 50 letters for each group. Okay. So here we can see the descriptive information for the corpus, which now I'm not going to go into any more detail here. Okay, I want to say some more things about the method that we use for the analysis before I show you what we identified. Okay, and basically this is the method that we use. We first of all try to identify in the 20% of the sample writing, what inappropriate features can we identify. And we identify the inappropriate features from this pilot data from 4 dimensions: content, genre conventions, addressee awareness, and authorial stance. Okay. And then we refine these categories by asking 5 NMET raters to confirm to what extent they agree on the inappropriate features that we as a researcher identified. Okay, so the next step, we actually validate our coding framework. And in the third step, 2 researchers code the data. And then in the final step, we check our agreement. We got 92% agreement for all of the 7 categories categorized into the 4 dimensions. Okay, now I'm gonna go very quickly through the 4 dimensions. The first dimension was the inappropriate feature categorized into the content dimension. Some students wrote in the letter what they can get from the exhibition. Clearly that didn't align with the communicative purpose, because in the writing prompt, students were asked to emphasize what they can do for the exhibition instead of what they get from the exhibition, okay? In the second dimension, we have inappropriate features associated to genre conventions. We also get two categories of inappropriate features for this dimension. One, in the beginning, student didn't specify any writing purpose in the first paragraph, as we can see from this example here. Typically in letter writing, we need to specify our writing purpose, right? But some students did not do so. And also at the end of the self-recommendation letters, we typically need to show our courtesy by expressing gratitude, because we require addressee to consider our application, and we need to show our courtesy to thank them to considering our application. But some students did not express any gratitude towards the end. And the third dimension associated to addressee features, okay? And also typically inappropriate features in this part either occur in the opening, where students open their letter with some expressions that did not align with their intended addressee. For example, some students wrote, "Hi, hello, how are you?" Clearly, these expressions occur between close friends, right? Not the intended addressee of this writing prompt, the official local art exhibition center, okay? And also some students commit inappropriate features of this dimension towards the end as well. Some students finish their essay by saying, "I hope you stay healthy and happy." Okay, so clearly these expressions also happen between close friends that they knew beforehand, and not for the official art exhibition that they knew for the first time. Okay, and finally, we also have inappropriate features for the authorial stance. Some students overemphasize their personal strength, either by using superlative or comparative, or alternatively using boosters. Okay, now, so in the first case that we identify as D1, some students use a superlative like "I am the most suitable person," or through comparative, "I am better than other people," to emphasize their personal strength. Clearly, using these expressions made the writer sound arrogant, at least sound lack of humility, right? And some other students also emphasize their authorial strength through using boosters. For example, "My involvement will undeniably add vigor and loveliness to exhibition." Here we have a booster, "undeniably," that clearly enforce the strength of students' personal strength, right? But using boosters to emphasize personal strength in self-recommendation letters sounds not appropriate, because it constructs the image for the writer to be somewhat arrogant and at least lack of humility. Okay, so now we look at the result of the analysis. Here we can see the distribution of the 7 categories of inappropriate features that have been subsumed into 4 main dimensions. Okay, and I also use color coding to code the extent to which students commit different categories of inappropriate information features. If a percentage occur lower than 10%, we don't see any color coding, because this problem is not a common problem. Okay, if the proportion occurs between 10 and 20%, then I will mark it in orange in order to show it's a common problem that deserves attention. If we got percentage that occur over 20%, then I'm going to mark it in red, indicating it's a very, very serious problem produced by a large number of test takers. overall, I'm gonna, due to the limit of time, I'm gonna summarize my major finding as follows, and then I'm gonna provide a very brief explanation to the finding. So the major finding was that different proficiency groups actually tend to produce different types of inappropriate features. Okay, now if we look at the high proficiency group, that we can see almost 60% of students from the high proficiency group frequently overemphasize their personal strength through using boosters. Okay, and on the other hand, medium scoring students tend to have, fewer medium scoring students had this problem, 28%, and even fewer students from the low proficiency group produce inappropriate features of this category. Okay, and another example supporting our major finding was that if we look at the inappropriate features of the first dimension, students stay what they can get from the exhibition, and we can see that it's the low proficiency group that most frequently commit this kind of error. And mid-scoring group commit this kind of error to a less extent, and high-scoring group commit this kind of a problem list, okay, compared to the other two groups. Okay,
are you leaving any time? Any time for questions? We're very much over time.
I'm towards the end. I'm towards the end of my presentation now. Okay, so I'm going to sum up my presentation by drawing 3 conclusions. And as we can see from the result, okay, the result of our investigation emphasized that different proficiency groups tend to produce different types of inappropriate features. As high scoring students typically construct situationally inappropriate stands. So they use boosters to overemphasize their personal strength, constructing situationally inappropriate stands, because doing so would make the writer sound arrogant and lack of humility. Okay. On the other hand, low achieving students frequently wrote information content that did not identify with the communicative purpose, or were not suitable for the intended audience. And finally, as the implication for the result of our study, greater pedagogical interventions are needed to address students' pragmatic problems, and teachers' intervention need to be tailored to address students' level-specific pragmatic problems, because different levels tend to commit different inappropriate features. Doing so will optimize their learning gains. Oh, sorry. Okay, so so I'm going to stop here, and I welcome questions.
Okay, thank you, Yanka, and very interesting study. Unfortunately, we don't have much time now, but does anybody have any questions for you, Yanka? Either written or spoken, it's either's okay. Got about 4 minutes. Okay, Bon Jovi, yes, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Jonathan. First of all, I would like to congratulate Leon K for the wonderful presentation. It's a very interesting study, actually. My question is,
thank you.
And my question is in reference to the coding frames. I believe you mentioned that there are 4 domains that you have come up with the team. Did you have a pre-existing theoretical framework that you used in doing the initial analysis before you came up with the 4? Or your
yeah, okay, that's a very good question. Okay, actually we consult we actually did get some pre-existing frames, but most of the frames that we can access to come from email writing. Okay, in the computer-mediated communication context, and the frames that we got from CMC contexts also include inappropriate features from their students addressing in in the addressing terms, such as dear Professor someone, okay? But these inappropriate features did not occur in our writing task because students have already been given this addressing term. And so students didn't have to write this addressing term, okay? And also the coding framework coming from the CMC context also point out students' inappropriate features by the end of the letter, okay? And also here in the writing prompt, we didn't have issues with students' inappropriate features at the end because the end has already been given for students. So students actually have to write that part. So basically we analyze the students' writing in between these two parts. And also when we analyze the what student wrote in between these two parts, we refer to originally Dale Harm's definition for communicative appropriateness, and I know it's not a very formal way to do it, but we got incitement from Harm's definition for communicative appropriateness. And we actually extract these 4 dimensions from Harm's original definition. And also we consult some later publications after Harm's from publications working in CMC context as well. And we also try to pilot these provisional frames with our data before we boil down and finalize these 4 dimensions. So that's what we did. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Any more question?
Jonathan, I think you're on mute.
Jonathan,
Sorry, I was going to. Okay, yeah. Sorry,
okay.
We're running out of time now, so I don't think we've got time for any more questions at this stage. I've got one question, Yuenke, and it's just basically, well, why did you change the title of your talk?
The title, because I think the revised title might be more easy to read and sounds more appealing. It's easier to understand.
Right. Okay, that's fair enough. Okay, but exactly. So the study, I could tell the study was exactly the same. I just thought, why did you change the title? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm sorry we've run out of time.
Okay. But, I'm gonna stop sharing, right?
Yes, please. Yeah, if you could.
Okay.
And really appreciate everybody. Yep, appreciate your talk. It was very, very interesting and very, very complex. So thanks very much for that. And
thank you for the question as well. It's a very, very meaningful question. Yeah. Thank you.
If you have any more questions, please keep them in the chat box, and we'll send them to Yuenke. Maybe you can answer them by email. That's okay.
Yeah.
All right then.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to leave it there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Bye bye now. Bye bye.
Bye bye.